Welcome to The Disappearing Mind, a unique podcast helping you find clarity and support along your dementia journey. Now, join National Dementia Trainer and Coach Dawn Platt for an all-new episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Disappearing Mind podcast. I'm Dawn. I'm your host, and I'm glad that you're here with me today during Alzheimer's Awareness Month. We're doing a 4-part series. I hope you will take the opportunity to listen to all 4 podcasts in and around Alzheimer's disease and honoring people in the month of November who have passed, who are with us, and their caregiving partners and families as we walk the dementia journey. During Alzheimer's Awareness Month, it is a time to learn, to honor, and to remember that no one walks this journey alone. I know you might feel that way. I know you might be thinking that, but if you get out and find people in your town, your area, your city, your capital, you're going to find that there are hundreds of thousands of people impacted by this disease, of all races, of all ethnicity, all income levels. It discriminates against everyone. But this is that month where you can come together. It's a coming together. It's an awareness. And there is such warmth in knowing other people are going through what you've been through or what you're going through. It is a wonderful time to educate and learn more about Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. In our last episode, we explored what is Alzheimer's disease, how it affects the brain and the people we love or know or are acquainted with. But today, I want to start with a truth that surprises many people. Not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. There are actually more than 100 types of dementia. Some experts say over 120 types of dementia. And really, each year, we hear about more and more types. As we become more proficient in testing and research, we realize that there are many different types of dementia. But today, we're going to talk about over 100 types, each one with its own story, its own course, and its own impact on behavior and family alike. You may be wondering, how can there be so many? Well, dementia isn't one disease. It's an umbrella term or condition that affects memory, reasoning, and personality when the brain is damaged by illness or injury or condition. There are a lot of different ways that the brain can be damaged, and we'll get into some of that as we go through the podcast today. But Alzheimer's is the most common type. It's the one that we hear most about. Yes, it accounts for about 60 to 80% of cases. That number is different by different organizations, but it's somewhere in there what we're commonly seeing. But that means that up to 40% of people are living with something else, a different type of dementia, or even a combination of dementias, which we call mixed dementias. Around the world, more than 55 million people are living with dementia, and that number will nearly double by 2050. That's millions of families, millions of stories. And this month, more than ever, is the perfect time to find and share support. It's the time to seek education and training and understanding, and to join the growing movement of people who believe that we will find a cure. So today, let's talk about these different dementias, how they compare, and why a correct diagnosis truly matters. But before we compare, let's define Alzheimer's disease a little bit more clearly so that you can kind of understand the differences. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disorder. It destroys memory, thinking skills, and eventually the ability to carry out basic tasks in everyday life. Under a microscope, we see that amyloid plaques and tau tangles, which is a protein, disrupt how brain cells communicate to one another. Over time, those neurons, those cells die, the brain begins to shrink, and daily life becomes harder. Symptoms start slowly, forgetting recent events, misplacing objects, repeating questions, and gradually spread to language, reasoning, and personality changes. On the average, someone lives 8 years after diagnosis, though some live much longer depending on health and support. Why define it first? Because understanding Alzheimer's disease gives us a baseline to recognize how other dementias behave differently. Sometimes subtly, other times dramatically. And I think because the most common type of dementia people know about is Alzheimer's disease, the most prevalent education and training out there is on Alzheimer's disease. I like to define them because people who are living with a different type of dementia often are confused by what's out there about Alzheimer's disease, and they don't understand the differences or how it impacts them. And I think it's really, really important that we cover that. Over 100 types of dementia, and what are the numbers behind that? Let's unpack that phrase, over 100 types of dementia. Dementia isn't that single disease. It's really a syndrome, a set of symptoms arising from many possible causes. Those causes can be brain disease, can be strokes, can be protein deposits, can be vascular dementia, can be infections, even substances or metabolic disorders that happen to someone. Some are rare and others are more common or more commonly diagnosed. Here are some statistics that help ground that scale for you. So in the United States, Medicare data shows that 43% of cases are Alzheimer's disease. 14% are vascular dementia, 5% Lewy body dementia, and 1% frontal temporal, and the rest are mixed dementias or rarer forms of dementia. That is a pretty telling story based on data that is billed through Medicare. And so I think that we can see that there is a variety of dementias that is being seen in the United States. Other sources put Alzheimer's disease at 60%, vascular dementia at about 15%, Lewy body dementia at 10%, frontal temporal dementia around 2%, and mixed dementia making up another 10% or more. That statistic comes out of the UK and their dementia research organizations. But I think that what's really important is that getting a diagnosis, getting an accurate diagnosis so that statistics become clearer and we know what we're treating and how to treat it. Mixed dementia refers to cases where there is more than one type present, and this is pretty common. Most commonly, what we're seeing reported is Alzheimer's disease plus vascular changes, making it Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. So many experts believe, and this is a Cleveland Clinic statistic, that mixed dementias often are underdiagnosed because simply when they find Alzheimer's disease, perhaps they don't go forward and diagnose other types of dementias. And so therefore, we're not really aware of that for a variety of reasons. When I say 100 plus types, I mean that there are many causes and subtypes. But clinically, we tend to focus on the most common ones while remaining alert or overlap rare types of dementia and individual variation. There's some less common types of dementia that we don't talk about a lot. There's not a lot of information out there, but typically what we recommend is getting an accurate diagnosis through a neurologist and through blood testing and clinical testing so that you really know what you are dealing with and can receive a more accurate treatment and care plan. Mixed dementias, where these two types overlap, like Alzheimer's disease and vascular, may actually be far more common than we realize. Autopsy studies show that many people diagnosed with just Alzheimer's actually have multiple brain pathologies working together, but not everybody has an autopsy. So if you want to help research, I would suggest that that is something that you do if you are diagnosed with any type of dementia so that you can promote the cure going forward. But this matters because the symptoms and even emotions a person experiences may differ depending on what's happening in the brain. And each of these dementias have a different pathology. They have a different course. And so that's going to be important as this disease is defined even further and research and treatment progresses. Why does proper diagnosis matter? You hear me say that a lot. Well, it matters because we can really know what treatments work better, what the course of the disease are. We could better define symptoms, options. All of these things matter. You might be thinking, does it really matter which kind of dementia someone has? The answer is absolutely. A correct diagnosis guides treatment. It guides research, planning, and really compassion. So let me kind of give you an example and why this is so important. And if you are a caregiver or your family member has a less common type of dementia, you will relate to what I'm talking about because you will have kind of run into the wall of having Lewy body dementia, but hearing about Alzheimer's disease, and they're completely different. But there was a woman that I knew named Marjorie, and she was told that she had Alzheimer's disease because of memory issues, but she also had a history of small strokes, and her symptoms worsened suddenly after each episode. When she finally got to a neurologist and they ran imaging, they discovered vascular dementia, not just Alzheimer's disease. And that new diagnosis shifted everything. Her doctor really focused more on treating her blood pressure, cholesterol management, and her family learned to expect step-like changes instead of a steady decline. And the frustration kind of turned into understanding. They better understood those sudden changes with each mini stroke or that sort of thing. It really changed the course of her treatment and really prevention long term. So different dementias respond differently to medications too. Drugs that help Alzheimer's disease can worsen symptoms in Lewy body dementia. Or, for instance, you don't want to have treatment for a disease that you actually don't have. So diagnosis affects behavior management. Someone who hallucinates, knowing it's Lewy body dementia, changes how we respond. We expect people with Lewy body dementia to have hallucinations. Gently validating and reassuring instead of correcting or thinking that this is unusual, we know that this is something that they are going to have. This is very common in this type of dementia. So proper diagnosis means better care in the long run.
It means fewer crises and actually more dignity.
One of the things that families struggle with the most, and I coach on this all the time, is unknowing what the future holds, the next stage, the next what if. That kind of prognosis and understanding is really helpful in setting expectations on the dementia journey as a caregiver. Let's talk a little bit about comparing types and symptoms and behaviors that we see. So let's look at the most common types of dementia kind of side by side. Hopefully this will give you a clearer picture of some of the differences that you might see or hear in different types of dementia. Alzheimer's disease is a gradual memory loss. It's disorientation, language difficulty. It's more slow, steady decline over years. Behaviors often center on confusion and repetition. Repetition in questioning or those sorts of things. So it's a gradual loss. It's the slow fade kind of thing where vascular dementia often comes in steps. This could be after strokes or a series of small ones. Thinking and problem solving decline more than memory at first. Managing heart health can slow the process. managing blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, all of these things. Vascular dementia is caused by an occlusion or loss of blood flow to the brain over a period of time, a chronic type of loss of blood to the brain. Lewy body dementia is fluctuating clarity. Vivid hallucinations are so common. Stiffness or tremors are another common symptom we see. One day the person is sharp, the next day they're very foggy. So if you're a caregiver, that unpredictability can be exhausting. But knowing why it happens help you breathe instead of blame or be confused about why they're good one day and not another. That fluctuating clarity and change in condition, change in behavior is very, very common in Lewy body dementia. Frontal temporal dementia is generally a younger onset, sometimes in the 50s or early 60s. Big personality and language changes are seen in this type of dementia. You may hear someone once polite become blunt or uninhibited, saying things, having outbursts or rudeness that you had never experienced with them before, because impulse control centers are affected in the brain with frontal temporal type dementia. And then mixed dementias. So mixed dementias have a combination of causes: memory loss plus sudden dips in ability or mood swings layered into confusion. Treatment really focuses both on the brain and vascular health to help this person live a more quality of life. So different paths, different behaviors. And when we recognize that, we stop asking, why are they doing this? And start asking, what's happening in their brain today? As a dementia coach, I always tell families, when you understand the why, you change the how. Here are a few simple takeaways that I want to review with you that are going to be important. Keep a symptom journal. Patterns tell stories, and you need to have this journal to share with your physician, with your neurologist, and to tell the story of what's happening. These are going to be clues for the physician as they treat the disease. Ask doctors to name the type of dementia, not just say it's memory loss. Ask your doctor to send you to a specialist so you can actually get a true diagnosis so that you can look at the options for treatment in the long run. Seek out specialists. If you have dementia, you need to see a neurologist. They are the brain specialists. Seek memory clinics in your area for visits and screenings. Screenings every 6 months are going to become critical in how you're doing, how you're progressing. And geriatric psychiatrists, geriatric psychiatrists can help manage these behaviors and behavioral symptoms. They can really define the differences that you're going to see with different types of dementia. These are specialists. These are professionals that do nothing but deal with diseases and conditions of the brain and behaviors. So it's really important that you seek out specialists for a better care plan. Manage health factors that can worsen decline. Sleep. Sleep is critical when it comes to brain health. Stress. We need to minimize stress wherever we can, and stressful situations or stressful environments. This is going to be important to the impact of the health of the person who has dementia, whether it's you or the one you're caring for. And blood pressure. Blood pressure, blood sugar, these are all things that impact dementia. Infection, if you are prone to urinary tract infection, for goodness sakes, go to your urologist and get it under control so that you are not adding to cognitive health by not being treated for infection. Blood sugars are critical. New statistics are coming out every day about managing blood sugars and that impact on the brain. More to come on that with the latest research through the Alzheimer's Association, but it has been known for a long time and is proving to be true. Controlled blood sugars are very important. And always lead with compassion, because every behavior has a meaning. Thank you for joining me today on the Disappearing Mind podcast during this month of November as we remember those with Alzheimer's disease and their families. Remember, Alzheimer's is just one chapter in a much larger story of dementia, your story. By all norms, Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal, and mixed dementias, we open the door to better care and better empathy when we educate ourselves, when we tap into resources available, and when we get support that we need. This month, take time to learn, take time to connect, and share a story, support a caregiver, or simply make a memory with someone you love. It's an important time. You will thank yourself later for doing that, because when we see it, the person behind the disease, we honor every beautiful mind that's slowly disappearing and every heart determined to remember. Until next time, take care of yourself and one another. Make it a memorable day. This is Dawn Platt. Join me again on the Disappearing Mind podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Disappearing Mind podcast. We hope it's helped you find clarity and support along your journey. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. Visit our website to suggest future topics and share the podcast with friends and family.